You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Welcome, people.
Greetings.
Welcome to the Zod and Drea podcast.
We are actually recording live from Flagstaff, Arizona.
We are in Flagstaff, Arizona. If you haven't been following us, we've been doing our little road trip that we've been talking about. Didn't get to go up to Canada, but instead we did a U-turn over in San Jose. But it was a really good trip.
We can't even describe all of the craziness that occurred on this. It's been, 5 days?
I think it's been 5 days. I think this is the 5th day.
Of just adventures that started in San Diego. And now looks like we're going to be winding down in, the Sedona area?
We're going to try to go down to Sedona tomorrow. By the time you hear this, we'll probably wind up being in Sedona and hopefully back in Phoenix. But, it's been a really good adventure, to just pack up, just grab your things, take off, and, whatever happens. There's some people who like to plan everything, but this was one of those more surprising events where you just pack up the car and you just get out for a week.
Yeah, we had a general idea of what to do, and we had a budget, and we had a time frame. So we knew we had to start and end at a certain time, and we had to stick to a budget, and I think we did really well for ourselves.
Yeah, considering we've been to 3 states already, think about it. We've been to 3 states. We've been to Yuma, San Diego, Los Angeles. Where do we stay over at that one place?
Bakersfield,
San Jose, Las Vegas.
Flagstaff,
Grand Canyon. And so, we've been all over the place. We got Route 66 down. So, we'll talk about that a little later in the main topic. But right now, let's talk about what we're going to do politically.
Trump Jr., man, this guy was a mess. So we're just going to talk about his emails and his so-called casual meeting that he had.
For the entertainment, we're going to talk about Game of Thrones Season 7, the highly anticipated last season. I think last season. Or one of the last seasons, something like that. I think this is the last season of the HBO program. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. If in case you haven't seen it, they're going to be spoilers.
No.
And, of course, our main topic is...
Top 10 excuses people give for not traveling.
So, obviously it's going to fit the bill. So, it makes a lot of sense. So let's get into this, all right? All right. So we're going to talk about our boy Donald Trump Jr. and his emails.
So for those of you who are not familiar with this guy, he is obviously by his name, Donald Trump's son. And he is also, the head of the Trump...
I don't know what he's doing.
Hotels,
business.
Yeah,
something like that. He and his other son, Eric, are, running his business, which is, I'm sure, profiting, in his coffers as well. But he's running his stupid little thing. And he's this slick-looking... Patrick Bateman from American Psycho looking dude. You've probably seen him around.
He's the Gordon Gekko.
Yeah, he's not the vampire dude. He's the other one. So it seems that he was busted. So of course we know everything about Russia. Now there's going to be a huge percentage of America that believes there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Trump family's nepotism. There's nothing wrong with
he's a
anything
guy.
They're doing. And he's just the best things in sliced bread. And he's done more in 3 days than Obama's done in 8 years. You're going to hear all that. But, when there's smoke, there's fire. And these guys have been just running around with all kind of Russian aides and Russian people, and every time the noose gets tighter and tighter on these people, and the denial is just ridiculous for what you hear.
Now, what was the email about?
Now, the email was about... Now, I think it was New York Times. I have to check, but I think it was the New York Times. They finally found out that Trump Jr. in 2016 had an email that came to him regarding dirt that they had on Hillary Clinton. So, was he interested? He was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm interested. He wanted to see what was going on. So he contacted Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort at the time, who was the campaign manager, to meet up with this woman who was going to, provide these documents, these damning documents for Hillary Clinton, about Hillary Clinton. So right there, it's like he's already meeting with a Russian person who had all this information about their opponent. So, of course, he was interested in getting dirt and, helping his dad's chances on becoming president.
And the CIA has marked some history regarding this woman, that she was working with the government.
Yeah, as much as she tried to lie and say she wasn't. At first, their story was that she was contacting about adoption.
Yes, about that policy about adopting Russian kids.
Yeah, sure it was. So that's why you needed Paul Manafort and friggin' Jared Kushner. Yeah, right. Then he changed his story again because the New York Times was going to out him. I think it was either New York or Washington. I think it was the New York Times
right.
Was going to out him. They contacted him and said, "Look, we have this stuff." And that's when he freaked out and said, "Oh, I'm gonna get ahead of this and put it out." Now, look, this is over a year and a month later. A year and a month later, and now he wants to come forward with information that, it's no big deal. Of course, his dad is saying it's no big deal. This isn't being transparent, people.
No, and CNN even played the interview that they had with him that was a week after his meeting with the Russians, where he is like up and down saying that any type of collusion with Russia is false, it's fake, his dad would never do that, this is a made-up story, why would anybody ever think that? Kept swearing that this was all false, it was a conspiracy against his father. Mind you, this was a week after he had that private meeting. So come on, guy.
We're talking about these people who try and say fake news in order to throw, the wool over people's eyes, when really they've been covering up. This is what they're used to doing. They're grimy people. These are people who are grimy. They're money people who don't care about the poor, and they prey on the poor for their uneducated status. They know that they're not going to question them. These people are going to look at them like they're gods because they are richer than them, more powerful than them, and they think that these people are going to help them. It's almost like they call it an oligarchy. Really, like the way that they're doing everything. And, where there's smoke, there's fire. These people, have complained about Hillary Clinton's emails when Donald Trump Jr.'s emails are damning enough. Because it's not just spinning a web, it's connecting all these dots.
So do you see any of the conservative media starting to flip the switch on them?
No, well, some of them have. Over at Fox News, they've already, like Shep Smith. Shepard Smith has already done that. What's Chris Wallace?
Chris Wallace, right?
He's starting to flip a little bit. So, there are some people who are going to start coming around, but of course, as diehards, they're still diehard, and they're going to believe no matter what Trump says, no matter what he does, they're going to believe him. Right. There's just that people, whatever.
Yeah.
Look into this and find out what you think. Let us know what you think. All right. Forget about the Trumps. And
Gross.
Let's talk about the Game of Thrones Season 7.
Game of Thrones. So the new season started on Sunday, and I know I was really excited. Big props to my friend Mikey, who introduced me to Game of Thrones and the whole series and the stories and the families and the drama about it. I know that it was something that, as with my friends and people that are close to me, we make it a ritual, to try to get together and watch the show together. So, of course, we were traveling. We weren't able to do that. But from what I heard from so many other communities, is people were trying to make it a point to be together, make it a party even. And what we found out was that at some of these parties, they turned out to be bunk because they couldn't get the streaming done because the HBO streaming service crashed on them, right?
Yeah, so the streaming service had crashed on them because so many people were, bum rushing the show. It's obviously wildly popular. I was like, okay, cool, it's gonna be coming on. I'm a Game of Thrones fan, but I don't, jump hoops. I don't try to kill people. But I like the stories. I like how they're acted, and I think it's really interesting to see. And so, I was kind of excited about this just to see what the continuation is and what the ending is going to be. So, if anybody doesn't want to listen, then for the next, 3.5 minutes, don't listen. But, obviously at the end of season 6, Cersei just went buck wild.
Blew up everything.
Blew everything up. Daenerys and her dragons are running wild, but she's starting to build up her army. Tyrion obviously doesn't give a shit anymore, and he'd rather help her out because he sees a winning team. He knows a winning team when he sees one.
Right, and Jon Snow,
Yeah, Jon Snow. He's still at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
He's cold.
But he's king of the North.
But he's king of the North, and so he's getting his crew. The bastard son is has claimed his fame and being recognized as a Stark.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see all the individual stories, and I'm loving that. And now it's all about the ice giants.
These ice giants, which I never get the names correctly about what they're actually names called, but they pretty much are like these zombies, right?
They are zombies.
And they're the ones that are bringing this winter, this dreaded winter, which in this story and in this world is like the end of days. Like this winter's coming, it's going to end the world. Well, I guess this has been foretold for centuries in this world of like, yeah, there's always been talk about end of times, end of days, but nothing's ever happened. Well, this is different because these people are pretty much zombies, right? And they're pretty much really the most like evil forces around. And Jon Snow and his group of guys fought them, battled them, and saw the power that they have. So now this season starts with one angle with Jon Snow warning the other families, the other parts of their world of Westworld, Westeros, another story of, hey, we need to band together to fight this evil. We can't fight amongst each other anymore. Let's just hurry it up and get prepared. Have women fight, have every person that pretty much can hold a sword start fighting.
So everybody's got to jump in and fight these, because the one thing about these ice people, like, for whatever reason my brain is going blank, so much traveling, but the problem with them is that they're legend.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody believes it. They're boogeymen almost. It's almost like, nighttime stories you tell your kids. But there are a few characters that obviously have fought them, and they are coming. But it's like, hey, what are you talking about? People aren't going to listen to you. So hopefully they'll be able to turn things around in as far as winter coming. But, people like Cersei or Daenerys, they're not really worried about these ice giants. Like,
no, not yet.
Like, they haven't. They aren't even. They're thinking about who's going to take over what. Cersei's just like, I want to be, ruler of the 7 kingdoms
and kill everybody else that gets in my way.
Everybody. Arya in the opening segment is the brightest spot. And I'm glad that they're really expanding her story, because she's the one Stark.
She finally got her vengeance.
Who hasn't seen her family since like season 1,
mm-hmm.
and has been on a mission of training herself, and now she is finally getting revenge for everything. Like, she is the one to watch.
What I've always been a fan of this story, of the whole series and the story, is how powerful the female characters are. And you're really going to see, I think, much more of that too. And just have it. It's just a really great storyline. And I'm very excited for this season. Even though, yes, we hear it's the last.
Please listen carefully.
It may not be the last.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube?
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
I see a pattern. So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye.
All right, people, we're back at it again.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. So, again, the top 10 excuses people give for not traveling.
All right, so obviously we went on our trip. And, I mean, I've traveled a lot, during my time, different countries and all over this country, United States. And I think it's one of those things that people, my parents have instilled in me, when we were 15, I mean, even before that, when we were like 6, 7, hey, we're going to Disney World. Being teachers, we would travel in the summertime with the two months off that we had. Whether it's going to Indiana or Virginia to see our families, or it's going down to the South to go to Disney World, whatever, that's what my parents would do.
Mm-hmm. And with my family, being here in Arizona, we would take trips to California. We wouldn't do every year a big vacation if my parents' work schedule didn't really work out well for them. But what we would do instead would do like 4-day trips, maybe within Arizona or maybe to another, close by state line, right? If it wasn't a big full-on vacation, we could at least get away for a few days. So we try to work that out, and that's how I grew up in our lives. Like, well, if we can afford it and if you make the time, great, let's go out of town. Otherwise, we would save up for the big trip every year.
And my parents, they would instill with us to make sure that we would go overseas. My sister would probably do it first, but then we would wind up doing it. I remember my parents took us on a cruise. Then they took us to Germany. They took us, well, actually before all that, when I was 16, they took us to Germany and, Swiss Alps and whatever, enough to give me enough to where I know I wanted to travel a little bit more and go out of the country. So I did that, by myself later in life. But it doesn't matter to me whether you travel to the Bahamas or, out of town, or if you just travel and try to discover what's in your, near vicinity. And one of the things that we did was, it's like, let's just go what's near us. Yeah, some of it's familiar, but let's just do a road trip because you're going to wind up seeing things that you haven't seen before. And especially doing it together as a couple, it's a new experience for both of us as a couple. So we're going to have new eyes on things that we've seen, which we did as soon as we, got to San Diego or Yuma or, wherever we went to. So the top 10 excuses people give for not traveling, like, we want to know what your excuse is. And, we have an idea on what a few of them are, but, reading from, what is it?
This is called Sensify, and a few others, like relationship websites, give on which is, again, just an interesting topic on why people just don't want to travel. And from what we've heard from other people, as well as some of these excuses, if you will, are pretty common, and we can totally understand. So first one, which is the most common one, is, but I can't afford it. I don't have the money for it.
And here's what I say. There are people who, if you really look into your budget, and this is for anything, not just traveling, but if you want to travel, and you're like, oh, but I can't afford it, look at some of the things that you spend money on. Mm-hmm. Like, seriously, there are people who spend money on cigarettes, strippers, Jordans.
That's Starbucks every day?
Starbucks every day. There are ways where if you didn't pay money for those things, if you're like, I'm going to hold that crap off and I'm going to throw it into a little account, and that account can be anything. Nowadays, you can make a PayPal account in 5 minutes. You can have a Cash Me account. You can have you open up a Digit account. There are so many things that you can do where you can throw a few bucks in every day, and before you know it, you have $1,000.
Well, and you just look at too, what is it when you travel? What does that look like? Is it you have to stay in the best resorts? Do you have to have like the most expensive dinners?
Exactly.
Or can it be just, hey, I'll go to a Holiday Inn and then go to a local restaurant? I remember back in the day, well, not back in the day, but like when the Food Channel first came out, there was a travel series that Rachel Ray had where she would travel to a different city across the country and she would call it $40 a day. So with $40, she would get her 3 meals a day and would find where she could find those bargains. I remembered watching that. I thought that was pretty cool. So again, it's looking into what is it when you want to travel. Could there be some ways that you could cut some things, or must you stay at the 5-star resort?
But it's like what you said. I mean, think about it. It's also what you said. Just do a few days. Do a long weekend.
Yeah.
Do a little travel. It's like, okay, we're over here in Arizona. The closest places are what? San Diego, LA, Las Vegas.
Rocky Point.
Rocky Point. There are places, Yuma, if you really want to go to Yuma. Mm-hmm. But, there are certain places that you can go to that are only, 3-4 hours away. If your car is in good condition, you can do it.
Well, then that goes into the next excuse of, I don't have the time. So instead of taking, again, a full week or 2 weeks, like you said, maybe a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend.
There's something that you can do. Everybody has time. Everybody does have time. You have to understand and try to think of what your time is spent on. Some people are going to wind up thinking, oh, well, I got to go clean my house at this time. Or I got to do this on my day off. Or I got to rest and sleep on my day. That's cool. It's true. You do have to rest or whatever. Maybe you have to rest on your, but why don't you rest in Sedona? Mm-hmm. Why don't you go rest in, somewhere else? Why do you have to be there? Yeah, rest in Jerome, or get out and travel and see something and gain knowledge on a culture or an experience that you've never been before or noticed before.
Now, this one I can't speak to because this is not really my situation, but I can't travel because I have children.
Yeah, and I can understand that.
But I do remember though that for trips, yeah, my parents would take us, and yeah, it doesn't mean that we get to eat at the most expensive places. It was more like, okay, mijas, you guys gonna have some sandwiches made?
I was gonna say,
You
pack
have
a
some,
lunch.
yeah, and we made it fun. Like we made our own meals, or it's like, yeah, let's try this weird restaurant we've never seen before. This little drive-through place, tiny little things. You don't have to spend so much money on the kids as far as like feeding, or I don't know. That's just my experience and my opinion on that. What do you think?
If you pack something, I mean, you can go to Costco and probably buy a whole bunch of crap that's going to last you a few days. Pretty easy and pretty cheap. If you're not sure, it's like, oh, I don't know, then go, find a place where you have a park nearby and grab some meats. And just, and some charcoal and just cook up on a grill.
It's always so good to do.
It's like just do that. And like there's lunch and dinner. It's all about the experience and trying to expose people to things. I understand kids. If you have a newborn, that's going to be hard.
A new human
If
being.
you got a 2-year-old, that's going to be friggin' hard. But you got a 5-6-year-old. I know my parents. They were like whatever. They packed up the friggin' station wagon. Man, we were in the family truckster, and that was it. We were off.
But did you guys have to, was it like the best resorts you guys were at? Or
no, we stay at little motels, little hotels, whatever they can afford. My parents, they're middle class, but, they're not stupid either. 6 people. They're like, yo, cram in there. Mom and dad had a bed, Kelly and, Neil, and then, there was Brent and Scott, who was always like somewhere else. Usually we had the cot. It's like that's just how it was.
Yeah, and that was always fun. Like I remember having great memories of that. Like we're all cramming into like one hotel room, but it was the best experience ever. It was the nice hotel room, but we were all crammed in it. Another excuse is, but I've got no one to go with. That I've heard before from some of my single friends, right? And when I was single too. But to me, it wasn't an excuse. To me, it was more like, if I've got no one to go with, awesome. I'll just go by myself.
Go by yourself. What is it that you think that everybody at a truck stop is a serial killer?
Just don't talk to them.
Like literally, like we're talking about a day and age where, you can put on Find Friends. And just your friends can find you or track you. If you don't have a friend, fine. And do your little FaceTime at little places that you go to. I think that's an excuse for people who just don't like to be alone. Or they feel like if they post pictures of themselves alone at the Grand Canyon or something, then they're like, oh, they're going to think I'm a loser.
It's always this the excuse I've heard of, but it's not safe for a girl to travel alone, right?
Here we go again.
And for me, I had to travel a lot for work alone, and you just get smart about it. I don't put a lot of jewelry on, don't wear the big bag that's the big Michael Kors bag where all the labels, strapped around your shoulders so you're a target. Be smart.
Like definitely be smart. Again, like I'm saying, put some apps on your phone to be tracked. Tell people where you are or where you're going to be. And, keep a whistle around you. Like, there are certain things you have to do. Unfortunately, it's a dangerous world out there. And, yeah, sure, women do get kidnapped, but so do men. And so do kids. So women aren't the only ones out there who aren't safe from other, psychos. And even then, there's still people who can go on vacation or whatever and kidnap a whole family. So, don't let that stop you. And plus, the odds of it happening are rare.
You'll like this one. But I don't speak the language.
Oh, God. Should we tell them about what we saw today in the Grand Canyon?
Oh, my gosh. I think we were maybe 10% of the actual Americans that were at the Grand Canyon speaking English.
Nobody else. Like, we heard every accent. German. I guess Korean.
Spanish.
Korean. I think Japanese. I think it was Japanese. I heard. Let's see.
French, German.
There was
Spanish.
Italian because I took a picture. I took
yeah.
a picture of the Italian. Like, in other words, these people weren't scared to come out of the comfort zones of their own country, and they're in the friggin' middle of the desert looking at a big hole and gaping in the friggin' earth.
Couldn't be more dangerous than that.
It's like, first of all, you came to the United States where they, the cops will shoot you in a second. If the cops don't shoot you, the citizens who friggin' can't sleep without, a gun in their pocket, will kill you or shoot you. And they still came over here. So if they can come out of their comfort zone, then you can too. And, we're talking about traveling in your own country. So why would you not?
Right.
You don't have to speak a language. You don't have to go to another country. Most people speak English anyway. Like they do. Just be cool about it and try to learn their language. Like, how can you go to another country and not try to get cultured in their own stuff? You at least learn how to count to 10.
One other excuse that to me was I was surprised by it given this day and age. I'm afraid I'll get lost.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're supposed to get lost.
Right, and it's like, okay, really, again,
Like,
on
seriously.
every phone you've got a Google, you got some type of map, you've got some type of navigation system on your phone. Okay, pre-plan that out on where you're going to go, and yeah, that's the whole adventure. Yeah, don't get lost in a portion of the city where you don't feel safe, or it's a different time of day, but get lost in an orchard, get lost in.
But
just
my
get
thing is,
lost.
how do you get lost when there are routes like interstate this and route that all over the place?
Oh, look, I know plenty of people that live in the same city and still get lost in that city.
No, but once you get in that, like, you're not really lost. It's just directional.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like you're on county road. Once it turns to a dirt road and there are no lights, okay, yeah, you're probably lost. And then of course your Wi-Fi doesn't work or whatever you're saying. No, but we're talking about 2017, people. It's hard to get lost with
really
a map
is.
and Wi-Fi or LTE or 3G.
Yeah, and with just Ask Siri on your phone.
It just has Siri
Siri, I always call
Jeez.
Siri.
or Hey Google.
Check this part out, though. This one cracks me up because I remember hearing this a lot for people that would go across the border. But I'm afraid I'll get sick. What if I drink the water? Am I gonna get diarrhea? Am I gonna get sick?
Well, then get diarrhea.
Yeah.
Or bring bottled water. It's not hard.
No, my thing is this. Don't go to Tijuana, don't go to Cabo and drink yourself to death and eat all this food that your body's not familiar with. Maybe you won't get sick.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, people sit there and they go to these spots and just drink. It's funny. People are just really trusting of, alcohol. And who knows what synthetic things people put in the drinks they do. But, the water is going to be just that much dangerous. First of all, are you really drinking tap water?
What?
like seriously, it's 2017.
Who does that?
Oh, but I'm gonna get sick. Really? Are you really drinking tap water nowadays?
You sticking your mouth on a hose.
like for real? What are you doing? What are you doing?
If you are, you're nasty.
You're disgusting.
You should stay home. Don't travel, actually.
Stay home. Stay in the safety of your home. Hermit.
This excuse was pretty interesting to me, and it kind of gives her self-reflection. So I'm afraid my life will be even worse after. Okay?
I don't even know what that means.
Well, what that really breaks down to is that people have assumptions of, okay, if I visit this part of the country, people live this way. It's going to look like this. And then when you show up and it totally goes against your assumptions and it's pretty awesome, well, then you just broke down a barrier. You broke down a viewpoint, and that may just, for some people, shock them. Like, wait a second. What do you mean? I always believed this was supposed to be a certain way. I always thought people were supposed to live in a house a certain way, and they don't.
I mean, preconceived notions always mess things up. Like, I know people like, oh, I'm not going to France because the people smell. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I've been to France several times, and they don't stink. In fact, if you go to France, you can more than likely spot the American because they're bigger than everybody else. The preconceived notions that people have are kind of silly. And my thing is, you don't know about a culture until you visit it.
Right.
Until you ask questions about it. And that's one of the things that's wrong with the United States anyway, because people, they're so scared of Muslims nowadays, but yet they don't know Muslim people. Right. Visit a community of Muslims. Go eat the food.
Which, guess what? They're probably in your backyard right now.
More than likely, so travel is the exact same way. Stop making these stupid little excuses and just go out somewhere. Report back, post up pictures, and let us know what you think. Let us know what you thought and what you experienced. Did it break down any of your preconceived notions? And we want to also hear back from you just to see if there are any places that you've gone that we may want to go to. Yeah, why not? We'll copy you. All right, people. Wow. Man, we are like beat. We got some sleep that we're going to do tonight. We're going to go to Sedona. We have hit some towns. We're talking about yesterday. We drove for 8 hours, I think. No, 9 hours. Yeah. So we are on, this is going to be part one. But you did such a great job with getting all of our videos uploaded. Yeah, so make sure you check that out. Go to the website, ZodAndDrea.com, and you can actually check our playlist of all of our videos that we've uploaded from all of the places that we've been. So, you're going to see things from lightning strikes to fires to people on PCP and I mean, it's
Cesar Chavez National Memorial.
the Chavez National. I mean, make sure you check that out. Go to ZodAndrea.com or go to our Facebook page at ZodAndrea, as well as Twitter at ZodAndrea, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, everything else.
And see what we recorded in Vegas too.
All right, people. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.